The new CEO banned every single employee from ever speaking directly to clients again. And by the end of the month, his own company had lost $42 million because I followed his order exactly the way he wrote it. My name is not important, but for 3 years I was the lead account manager at a mid-sized software firm in Austin, Texas. We handled logistics platforms for regional trucking companies, and our clients were not the kind of people who liked being ignored. They were blunt, they were busy, and they trusted me because I answered my phone at 9 at night when their systems crashed. Then Gary Hallbrook took over as CEO after the board pushed out our founder in a quiet buyout. Gary came from a private equity background, and within his first week he called an all-staff meeting and told us that client relationships were, in his words, a liability that made the company too dependent on individual employees. He said the business should run like a machine, not a friendship circle. 2 weeks later, the memo landed in every inbox at exactly 8 in the morning. Effective immediately, no employee below the director level may communicate with any client directly, by phone, email, or in person, without written approval from executive leadership. All client communication must be routed through the newly formed Client Relations Command Center, which Gary would personally oversee. I remember sitting at my desk reading it twice because I could not believe he actually meant it. My biggest client, a trucking company out of Dallas that brought in almost $9 million a year, had my direct cell number saved under my name. I texted my manager, Denise, and asked if this applied to existing relationships too. She wrote back one word: yes. I want to be clear about something. I did not scream, I did not quit, I did not even argue. I opened the memo, read it one more time, and smiled because Gary had just handed me the cleanest revenge of my entire career without even realizing it. See, Gary's memo did not say route urgent issues faster. It did not say keep clients informed through a shared inbox. It said, word for word, no direct communication without written executive approval. So that is exactly what I did. Nothing. Absolutely nothing unless a director personally signed off on it first. The first casualty came 4 days later. The Dallas client, a man named Roy Fenton who ran a fleet of 200 trucks, had a routing error freeze half his dispatch system on a Tuesday morning. Normally, I would have had it fixed before his coffee got cold. Instead, Roy called my direct line and I let it ring to voicemail because Gary's memo said no direct communication. I forwarded his voicemail to the new Client Relations Command Center inbox, which at that point had exactly one employee, a 23-year-old intern named Kayla who had been hired the week before and given zero training on our systems. Kayla did not know what a routing error was. She did not know who Roy Fenton was. She definitely did not know that his fleet had trucks sitting idle on a highway shoulder losing him thousands of dollars an hour. She sent Roy a polite automated response saying his ticket had been received and would be addressed within 3 to 5 business days. Roy called me 47 times that day. I know because I counted and I saved every single call log because something in my gut told me I would need proof later. I forwarded each call to the command center exactly as instructed. I did not call him back. I did not email him. I followed the rule. At one point he texted me directly and asked if I had lost my mind since he had known me for 3 years and I had never once let a system stay down this long. I did not answer that text either. I screenshotted it and filed it in a folder on my desktop labeled evidence because some part of me already knew this story would need proof by the end. By Thursday, Roy had escalated. He asked to speak to whoever was in charge, since clearly the girl in the ticket queue had no idea what she was doing. He was transferred to Denise, my manager, who technically also could not speak to him without written approval, because the memo did not exempt managers, only directors and above. Denise had to physically walk down the hallway and ask Gary for permission to return a phone call from a client who was losing $9 million a year of business with us. Gary was in a 2-hour meeting about brand strategy. Denise waited outside his office door for that entire 2 hours holding a sticky note with Roy's number on it. When Gary finally came out, he asked Denise why she was interrupting his day for a routine client issue. Denise, to her credit, told him it was not routine, that a client was losing money every hour the system stayed down, and that the person best equipped to fix it in 5 minutes was sitting 40 feet away at her own desk, unable to pick up the phone because of his own memo. Gary told her the point of the new system was that no single employee should be a bottleneck. He told her to have Kayla handle it. Kayla could not handle it. By Friday morning, Roy Fenton had been without a functioning dispatch system for 4 straight business days. His trucks were literally parked because his drivers had no routes assigned. He had already started making calls to our competitor, a company based in Houston that specialized in exactly the kind of logistics platform we sold him. I want to be honest with you. Every single day that week I sat at my desk and watched this unfold, and I felt something close to peace because I had never once broken a rule. I had documentation for every forwarded call, every unanswered voicemail, every ticket routed exactly where the memo told me to route it. I was not sabotaging anything. I was the most compliant employee in that entire building. On Monday morning, Roy Fenton officially terminated his contract with us and signed with the Houston competitor. $9 million a year gone in exactly 6 business days because nobody with the actual knowledge to fix a routing error was allowed to pick up a phone. Gary found out during a board call, not from Denise, not from me, but from the finance director who noticed the revenue drop in a weekly report. He stormed out of his office demanding to know how this happened, and Denise, who had been documenting everything just like I had, printed out the entire email chain. Roy's voicemails, the automated response from Kayla, the sticky note incident, all of it, stapled together in a folder that she placed directly on Gary's desk. Gary asked me directly why I did not just call the client back like I always did. I told him I was following his memo exactly as written, that I had assumed he meant every word of it, and that I did not think it was my place to override executive policy on my own judgment. I said it calmly. I said it politely. I said it while looking him straight in the eye because every word of it was true, and he knew it. He could not fire me for following his own instructions to the letter. He could not discipline me for a policy he wrote himself. Every complaint he tried to make about my performance that week evaporated the second someone pointed out that I had the memo, dated, timestamped, in my inbox, and I had done precisely what it said. 2 other clients almost walked that same week for the exact same reason, and only stayed because their contracts had cancellation penalties steep enough to make leaving less appealing than staying angry. One of them, a produce distributor out of San Antonio, sent an email to the entire executive team threatening legal action over what he called gross operational negligence, and copied his own lawyer on the message just to make sure everyone understood he was serious. I forwarded that email to the command center too, exactly as the policy required, and watched Kayla send back another automated response promising a reply within 3 to 5 business days to a man who was actively drafting a breach of contract claim. The board found out about all 3 situations within days, because clients do not stay quiet when they are losing money. They call everyone they can find, including board members they had met at industry conferences over the years. 3 weeks after the Roy Fenton account was lost, there was an emergency board meeting. I was not in the room, but Denise was, because by then she had become the unofficial keeper of the entire paper trail. She told me afterward that the board asked Gary to explain the $42 million drop in projected annual revenue, tied directly to client attrition following his new communication policy. Gary tried to blame the employees for not adapting quickly enough to the new system. One board member reportedly asked him if he had personally read the memo he wrote. Gary said of course he had. The board member asked him to read it out loud in the meeting. He did. When he got to the part about no direct communication without written executive approval, the room reportedly went silent because everyone understood in that moment exactly what had happened. Gary Holbrook was removed as CEO by the end of that month. The board brought back an interim executive who had worked with our original founder, and within her first hour on the job she rescinded the communication policy completely. She called me into her office not to reprimand me, but because she had read through every ticket, every call log, every piece of documentation I had kept, and she wanted to understand exactly how bad it had got. I told her everything calmly, the same way I had told Gary. She asked me one question before I left her office. She asked why I never just quietly broke the rule to help the clients anyway, since everyone would have understood. I told her that if I had broken the rule, Gary would have survived, because he could have blamed the chaos on employees ignoring policy instead of on the policy itself. The only way to make sure everyone saw exactly how broken his idea was to follow it perfectly and let it break itself in front of everyone. She smiled at that, and 3 weeks later I got a promotion to director, along with the direct authority to personally approve client communication policy going forward. The first thing I did in that role was write a new memo, 1 single sentence long. Employees should always do whatever it takes to serve the client and use their best judgment to do it. I signed it and sent it to the entire company at 8 in the morning, the same time slot Gary always used, because some details deserve to be intentional. Roy Fenton never came back, and honestly I do not blame him, since trust like that is hard to rebuild once it is broken by policy instead of people. But every other client we still had received a personal call from me that same week, checked in on properly, the old way, and every single one of them stayed. Gary Holbrook, as far as I know, has not run another company since, and somewhere out there I hope he still remembers the exact words of the memo he wrote himself, because I certainly do, and I kept a copy.